Americans, what does America get right? Have fun watching. Post in the comments what you think about it. It will be interesting to read. Story 1. The absolute freedom to go where you want. We have a landmass the size of Europe, 50 different states. 2. 3 dozen different climates, geographic regions, etc. And you can literally wake up, decide you want to live in a different city/state/region, and absolutely no one can stop you. I can go to a new place and say, I live here now, with no restrictions, permissions, etc. I just, in a roundabout way, tell the local government in my new place, and that's it. Story 2. Believe it or not, most countries are even more racist than this one. This isn't a flex. We have a long way to go. But once you travel outside the US, you realize America truly is a unique melting pot, and most other countries wouldn't have the first clue on how to handle so much diversity. They've been homogeneous for so long, they are racist AF. Story 3. Informed consent for hormone replacement therapy. I, an adult, was able to walk into a clinic, describe what I wanted, have the side effects explained to me, and leave with a prescription that day. In nearly any other country in the world, that would have taken weeks, months, or even years of seeing a therapist, psychologist, and endocrinologist. Story 4. Innovation and tech. It's no accident that the internet and almost all the tech giants are from the USA. The only significant non-US tech giants are TikTok, Alibaba, and Spotify. The same is true in medtech healthcare, where nearly all new technologies of any significance come from the US, including most recently mRNA vaccines. The US attracts the best minds from all over the world that come here, innovate and change the world, including the female Hungarian scientist who won the Nobel Prize for mRNA vaccines. Story 5. Changing the general outcome of war. Pre-WW2, the general rule was that if you won, you had your way with the other country, extracting resources and crippling it so that it never rose up against you again. Then Americans decided that after beating you, they were going to rebuild and install all the tools you need to have a functional society, all in the hopes that you would prove to be a good ally. If anyone gets punished, it's the governments that went after you, not the small folk in the countryside. It doesn't always work out, but at least we try. You might get an Afghanistan, or you might get a Japan. It really just depends on how much the people are willing to work with you. Story 6. Entertainment. Americans just aren't happy unless they are making someone laugh or smile or go, Almost any sin can be forgiven here, except being boring. In some places, smiling is considered the mark of an idiot, so I know why some cultures shy away from laughter. But if an American makes a joke or witty response and you don't laugh, they will feel like a total failure. Story 7. Debtor-friendly bankruptcy laws plus very strong patent law system equals sign innovation. I see a lot of people on this thread referencing innovation, startups turned huge corporations. I want to point to a couple unique American codes of law that drive that. Our bankruptcy laws not only allow people to take financial risk without carrying it personally for the rest of their lives, or even worse, extending it to their families, but also allow corporations to resurrect themselves. Bankruptcy law in the United States is unique in the world. Perhaps most startling to outsiders is that individuals and businesses in the United States do not seem to view bankruptcy as the absolute last resort, as an outcome to be avoided at all costs. No one wants to wind up in bankruptcy, of course, but many U.S. debtors treat it as a means to another, healthier end, not as the end. Intro to Dominion's Debt by Skeel, 2001. Our patent system protects the value of the idea for decades, so that you can benefit from having the idea in the first place. 6 unique features of the U.S. patent system: low fees, simplified procedures, examination of applications by trained experts, systematic disclosure of new technological knowledge, lack of working requirements, and encouragement of robust trade in patent rights. All had a powerfully beneficial impact on the nation's economic growth. OpenStax.org. Story 8. Well, not as much these days, but the right to bear arms. I understand some don't think we should have them, and we can debate all day over how guns affect the crime rate. But the Second Amendment was put in place as a fail-safe to protect us from tyranny. Look at Canada and the UK, 2 places you can literally be imprisoned for political speech. Here's an excerpt from Forbes about Canada specifically. Shockingly, the Canadian government is pushing new legislation that would, among other abominations, allow you to be arrested if a judge is convinced you're about to say something that is considered unlawful. That's right. You don't have to say it to be arrested, just the suspicion that you might. The fact that Americans are so heavily armed is why we're not in the same boat as them. I don't care if it's otherwise my all-time favorite perfect candidate. Nobody should have that much power. Story 9. It's an ongoing proof of concept I dearly hope remains and continues in practice, that human beings from everywhere on Earth can come together in one geographically defined place and build a worthy society. No blinders here regarding the accompanying atrocities and morally abhorrent practices, some of which continue through this day, but I would argue that America became, despite not because of, these transgressions. It is, by definition, a nation comprised of people from every other country, or tribe, or clan, or region, not Sentinel excluded, I'd think, on Earth. We're a bit of a shit show right now, with some Americans declaring ownership of foundational fundamental rights, like freedom. Ironies left the building. It will pass, and the fever dreams will subside. After all, the present drama isn't about whether the skin color of fellow citizens should permit their treatment as lesser human beings. That was serious, existential shit. Half the country was down with segregation because they believed blacks were inferior. No, this drama is about one disgusting dude and his cult of personality, built on tropes, lies, vapid sycophantic enablers, greedy corporate scumbags, and the multitudes of desperate and angry people too dumb to understand that the guy with the golden toilet is trying to kill them. Story 10. GPS sharing military technology with the general public. This is super underrated, but the US Gov consistently shares technology with the public. It can be something small like letting certain technologies go into the public domain, or it can be as massive as letting anyone have access to a global system of extremely precise satellites for navigation. You don't even have to be American. Also, on the topic of military, the way we do military spending is fantastic. Most of it stays in the country and goes to companies in the US. This allows you to spend money, and then immediately tax some of it back while also increasing GDP. That's just good for everyone. It helps the small guy by providing more employment opportunities and higher wages. If you are contracted with the government, you must meet higher minimum standards of pay and benefits. It helps companies from the small to the massive. It benefits shareholders. It benefits the government, local, state, and federal, and it benefits the taxpayer. Oh, and that's before considering the benefits of then using a lot of that money to build or research things useful to the public and to keep global shipping lanes open. And while still on this topic, the way the US did world domination was pretty cool. Like when you think of world domination, you think of evil and conquering. Nah, the US largely dominates the world by saying, hey, follow the rules, don't be mean. Also, trade with everyone. You don't have to trade with me, just make sure you trade. And then make sure everyone can freely trade with one another to de-incentivize fighting and letting those countries be independent and have self-determination. It's the only kind of world domination that, benefits almost everyone and is actually a positive force in the world. Then, if someone decides to break the rules-based international order, the US can lead a coalition to kick their teeth in, either physically or financially. Story 11. ADA-compliant ramps, etc., at least from a walking person's perspective. I was recently in China, and the number of extra random steps was mind-boggling, like having 2 steps, an escalator, and 2 steps, or a park with a bridge with all steps of different sizes, or a brand new mall where the front door had a 10 drop-off. It made me appreciate the way buildings are built here. Story 12. Immigration is a mess, so it's hard to say that, but we do it better than other country. America's taken more immigrants than any other country in the world, and unlike the EU, we vet our agents. Eritrean nationals are reporting migrants to the country so they can kill their families back in the country when they enter in Italy? Yawn, boring story. If that happened in the US, it would be a big fucking deal. I've dealt with USCIS. They're not pleasant, but when you're the gold standard globally, there's no incentive to improve. The rest of the world needs to catch up if they ever want us to improve. Story 13. As someone not well right now, I'm so glad at how easy and quick it is to talk to my doctor and get an appointment to see them, full prescriptions, see referrals or special clinics. I feel for the folk who have to wait a long time to see a doctor. I am on my state healthcare plan, which makes things so wonderful. Story 14. The presumption of innocence until guilt is proven. In theory, a defendant does not have to prove his innocence. Rather, the prosecution must prove his guilt. That's a great recipe for a verdict like Casey Anthony's. Yes, she was probably guilty. But at the same time, she could have been completely innocent and still had that exact same evidence against her. Yes, it sucks that she went free, but it was a good acquittal insomuch as the prosecution did not have smoking gun evidence. That exact same legal philosophy has allowed genuinely innocent defendants to go free. Till Dadar, our system errs on the side of protecting the innocent. It can be frustrating, but if you ask me, it's still much better than the alternative. Story 15. Two things that make summer bearable. Air conditioning and deodorant. Both exist other countries, but from what I've heard we use them more frequently and liberally than a lot of countries. And I'm grateful for that. Seriously. The research linking cancer and aluminum antiperspirants isn't incredibly solid, and even an aluminum-free deodorant is pretty damn effective in minimizing BO. Story 16. Late, but really the food here isn't that bad. Beyond what is in the grocery stores, restaurants here are actually excellent. Most states do really well at it. Some not so much, but you can always get something you like in literally every city. Mexican food is in every single U.S. town and city. Same with Asian and Middle Eastern food. 6-10 times it's authentic too. Story 17. Courts. Presumed innocent until proven guilty. EU. Jail meal. Argentina. Beans. Rice. One boiled hard egg. Every meal. Lakes. Campsites. Cars. USA and imports. 1st through 3rd grades. Food choices. Diverse expression as opposed to Japan. One GF I had dressed like a clown, picked her clothes for her. Combat training of many styles. Workers' rights. Health coverage. Freedom of speech. MUFON. Football concern about head injuries. Public tours of caverns. No-fault divorce. Icons. Statue of Liberty. Washington $1 bill. 4th of July. Eagle. Stars and Stripes. Liberty Bell. Extracurricular activities. Country girls. Mulberry pie. Pecan pie. Herbal remedies. Mature women. Story 18. For the most part, as a people as a whole, based on the rest of the world, and the shit we make excuses for. Tolerance. Insufferable tolerance. We tolerate horrible things and refuse to suffer and sacrifice to truly change anything. We're aware of so many things that hold us back, and we do nothing but play by the rules we're told to play by, the rules they made up for us, to fight back against them. We tolerate being robbed blind by those that have never known hunger. We tolerate being a number. We tolerate ourselves in the face of real work. We tolerate good enough. We tolerate excuses. We tolerate lies and hate in the false name of love. We tolerate weaponized classification. So, tolerance, we perfected tolerance. Story 19. Free drink refills at restaurants, fast food, and burgers. Love living in Japan, but goddamn I miss nearby craft burgers. Have to travel around for a burger unless I'm okay with McD's. Got spoiled by Mojave CA places. Edit also Central Air. I'm having issues keeping my computer from turning to magma in the summer. Homes have only wall-mounted aircon units here. Story 20. I've always America sucks at almost everything but diverse culture. In other countries, I've seen culture is one collective culture. Maybe a few differences, but mostly one culture in that country. America, on the other hand, you have black culture, Asian, Spanish, Indian, gay, straight, bi, Christian, Jewish, Satanist, and you get the point. Also, it's like every state has its own culture and traditions. Story 21. Breakfast food. Greasy spoon diner pancakes and bacon and eggs and hash browns. When I take foreign visitors out to eat, it's one of the most American meals I can think of, and it's universal across the country. The U.S. also does amazing food in the form of Southern cooking, Creole, Cajun, and BBQ, but that's not always regionally available, and it is really hard to find good Southern cooking outside of the South. Like seriously, if you're visiting the U.S., go to New Orleans and Charleston just for the damned food. You won't regret it. Story 22. General friendliness. Yes, there will be some places like New York City where the rule is, leave me the fuck alone, about 94% of the time. However, most places are filled with people willing to help or have a conversation with someone at a moment's notice. With all the traveling I've done, very few countries actively promote that sort of behavior, and some even actively discourage it. The USA is a rarity in that people here generally can be friendly without it being a scam or having some ulterior motive, and the same can't be said of a lot of other places in the world. Story 23. Fahrenheit for ambient temperature as experienced by humans. The freezing temp of water, while not warm, isn't really all that cold for us, and the boiling point of water is unlivable, so Celsius/centigrade with freezing as 0 degree and 100 degree as boiling is great for water-centric science, but not how humans experience the world. Fahrenheit makes so much for sense for how warm or cold the world is for us. 100 degrees is really hot. 0 degrees is really cold. Story 24. As a big craft beer lover, I'm gonna say beer. People in other countries shit on American beer because they think it's Bud Light and all that nonsense, but we have the absolute best craft breweries by far. I have 5 incredible ones within a 15-minute drive from my house, and they all do everything from lagers to IPAs to sours that taste like fruits or candy or whatever you want. Nowhere in the world can beat us in beer, and I'll absolutely die on that hill. Story 25. Fighting against ourselves, but not too much. Our civil war still hurts us. even if it ended the worst atrocity in humankind, which is slavery. Yeah, we definitely throw punches, but most feel bad when it lands hard. January 6th stunned a lot of us because we're like, woo, those folks are fired up, but that's our capital. We don't like other people being squashed. We don't like other people being super aggro. Story 26. We are really good at food diversity. Seems like it is impossible to get a lot of food we have here anywhere in the likes of Europe. I think most countries have maybe Taco Bell, and that is it for Mexican food. I know I got in an argument with really dense people in Switzerland about how their country has no food diversity, Mexican food being an example. Sorry, your one single Mexican restaurant, which looks mid based on the menu, absolutely does not cover all of Mexican food. America is a cesspool of different people. Therefore, we get different food cultures plopping in, and nobody in the world matches it, thus why I stay in spite everything else. Good ahead and try to get carne asada fries anywhere else. Most people will just cope and say they look like poutine fries, which even if they did have similarities outside of fries, most places don't have good poutine either. So their point is moot. With that said, we normalize a lot of shit that shouldn't be in food. Corn syrup, too. But that is a different discussion. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Be sure to write comments and share your stories.